So, I mean, we got into place, we got everything lined up, and I was literally ready to go find a stick or something to put, to put on my line and drag it in the water so that I could, mimic this picture of Pop because he's got a fish on in the
Right.
image. And so, but my son came with his camera and he's getting in position and he's just kind of doing his thing as passionately as I was doing with getting the fly right and, looking for the fish. And they started rising and just everything was coming together. And it was like the world was getting smaller and smaller down to this
Right.
moment. And
Welcome to Guys Fishing Weekly. We don't just fish, we hug. Reid.
Eddie.
I threw you for a loop on that one.
You
didn't
did
see that
throw me
coming.
for a loop. That's a
You
little
thought
different.
you thought hey buddy was coming, but
I did. You
No.
shook me a curveball, brother. How are you, man?
I did. I'm good. You?
Loving it. You know it.
Loving it. You know it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we can hop right into what we're celebrating this week, and that is
I think we can. I think we're both celebrating the same thing. Another successful and fantastic guys fishing weekend trip.
it was awesome.
It was incredible. It was really good. We had some decent fishing. I wouldn't say the fishing was A+, but it was but it was good. I mean, it was good. But there's a lot of rivers that are crushing. We had to basically go to still water to fish mostly because the rivers are running high out here. We were in the Grand Mesa area with lots of lakes to fish. We got out on the belly boats, which was fun. Haven't done that in a bit, so that was cool. And Ed, I caught fish on mice pattern. Yes.
That was pretty epic.
That was exciting. Yeah, that's a new for me, and I think that I am addicted to mouse patterns now. So, yeah, I'm gonna be doing a lot of dark night fishing with mouse patterns.
I knew once you caught one that you would never go back. So
Yeah,
I think now instead of stimmy season, it's going to be mouse pattern season
just
forever.
mouse patterns. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, mouse pattern with like a nymph dropper for you for the rest of your life.
Skirting mice across the top, inducing some violent strikes. Man, it's fun. It's pretty hilarious. Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, I mean, fishing was a little bit of a disappointment just based on what we were thinking we were going to go up there and be able to catch. But we did get into some fish, which was fun, and I think we thought of some other ways to attack the mesa next time when we head back there. So it was probably more of a spin fisherman's paradise than necessarily a fly fisherman's paradise.
Right. Certainly, Dan with us fishes with the fly in the bubble on a spin rod, and he did well. Not we didn't catch fish, we did.
Right.
But I think we were going there with the hopes of the variety of fish that you can catch. And once we got up there, we found out from some of the local peeps that that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case anymore with freezing out and the amount of snow they got this year, which apparently was a record in precipitation they got up there this year.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with you. We were expecting to go catch all these different kinds of variations of fish, and it didn't end up happening. It was pretty much rainbows the whole way. Yep. Although Rob did get a tiger trout. We did get one tiger trout in the net, which was pretty awesome. A little guy, but it was cool.
We caught like 70 rainbow trout, 2 brook trout, and a tiger trout, which seems like quite the strange Colorado lineup, but we did it.
Yes, that's right. We did, between all of us. But the weekend was so much more than just catching fish, right?
Beyond fish, yeah.
Yeah. That's the whole point of it. We had some epic games of cards. Like the poker was ridiculously good.
Yeah. I think it was funny that you went to bed early again, which you won't bring up, but you did, and then we you woke up the next morning to see the complexion of the poker chips completely changed.
I went to bed, and certain guys had giant piles of chips in front of them. And when I woke and looked at the poker table, it was completely different. The giant
One
stacks
person
had
had a giant pile of
shrunk,
chips.
and one person named Ed had all of the chips plus a plethora of greenbacks, like actual cash in front of it. Yeah. Apparently, you went on a hot streak for about an hour and cleaned everybody.
My only good hands, and this is the name of the game. My only good hands of poker the whole weekend came during one hour-long game of Diablo, which was epic. I mean, I had everybody's money pretty much. So
that was crazy. And on a weekend when I had pretty good cards all weekend, I finished second almost every hand. I made a little bit of a comeback at the end, so I wasn't down so bad. But oh my gosh, I had decent, really good cards, and I finished second. I was losing on full houses, and it was crazy. I'd get 4 of a kind, and somebody would have bigger 4 of a kind. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Yeah. So I finished second a lot, which in poker is not awesome.
It's first last in poker.
That's right. That's right. If you're not first, you're last. I was the best last place finisher probably of the whole weekend. Suckville. But no, it was so good. It was a lot of fun. We had some great epic long card games, which were good. Pots grew huge, and it was a lot of fun.
It was. We had a new guy up there this week. He fit in nicely and caught a lot of fish. So
he's the new youngster.
In some cases. The new youngster.
Yep. You're not the youngster anymore. No, Sawyer, Rob's son, has joined the crew, and he's the new youngster. He's got some things to learn still about Guys Fishing Weekend, but I thought he did great for his first time up there. So it was good.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. We'll have to sit him down for next year.
Yeah. Have a little chat about what he needs to do a little better.
Right. But overall, good conversations, lots of laughs, and another great one in the books.
Another great weekend of time spent with your buddies. It was awesome. Can't beat that. So that's celebrations, Ed. Tell me what you're navigating.
I am currently navigating. Well, I was, and still am. I have not conquered said navigation, but fishing from the bank of a lake. Not a strong skill set of mine. I love the moving water of a creek, and I knew that this weekend was going to be a challenge since things are blowing out and there's not a ton of creeks up on the mesa. So I knew that fishing lakeside was going to be ideal, and I did okay. I did better out of the belly boat in the middle, but I think my navigation right now is how the hell am I going to fish from the side of the lake?
Right. Yeah, it can be tricky, especially when it's windy. Whenever you get wind, and usually up on a mesa, you're going to get wind in some direction or another.
Yep.
So yeah, that can be especially difficult casting from shore. It'll test you, but you'll get better at it too. So even though he may not clearly catch as many fish, you certainly work on casting in different ways. You can chuck it into the wind and that sort of thing and deal with it. Yeah. So that brings something to the table, at least in terms of learning.
No doubt. It's it's just different. It's not the same rig as you'd throw on necessarily at on a moving creek, even though it can still be stimmy season at times.
Yes.
But it's just a little different. So
Good. That's a good navigation.
Yeah. What are you up to? What are you navigating?
I'm navigating time management, which I've been forewarned is, it's my usual summer, but I usually have, I don't know, it seems different now. So time management, I think, with the missus working from home and me working from home, sharing space, hoarding my own space when I need it, that kind of a thing. So yeah, I think that process of sharing space and time management, being productive, is definitely new. So yeah, so that's my navigation. It's nothing earth shattering, just something I got to work at, and it's different, and that's that. So I'll continue to navigate and work on that.
You gotta give yourself a little grace on that.
Yeah.
It hasn't been long since you've been out of work, so
Right.
But every picture I do get of you taking a nap in the middle of the workday, I'm gonna dock your pay a little bit.
Seriously. I'm
It's a
getting
little
ganged up on
frustrating
here.
at
My
times.
wife is sending you pictures of me napping during work time, and that's not really fair. It's funny, but it's not fair.
You got to employ your spies where you can.
That's right. That's right. Clearly, I have to look out a little bit more closely for what's going on around me. It's hard to do when I'm napping, though.
It is. You need like a tripwire that like sets off cans that wake you up when she walks by.
Seriously, I'm going to booby trap the house.
You'll be like, "Ooh, I'm awake. I've been awake and I'm working really
Whole
hard."
time. Yep. Computer's right here. That's awesome. That's good stuff.
Well, we got a great conversation this week.
Super excited.
We're talking with Ray Cameron of Pop's Flies.
Yeah, great story behind this one. Can't wait to hear him tell it.
Yeah, for those that don't know, it's a fly fishing journal that his great grandfather has been keeping or had been keeping over the years, taking little doodles of flies and writing the different recipes to make them and where he caught them and all that stuff. And it's an awesome story. It goes well beyond just that little book, and we're looking forward to hearing all about it. And so yeah, let's get right into it.
Sounds good, brother.
Hey Ray, how are you?
Good, Ed. Good to see you, Reid.
Welcome, Ray. Good to have you
Yeah,
here,
looking
man.
forward to it. Really good.
It's good stuff, dude. Hey, congrats to you on grandfatherhood. That's pretty awesome.
Yep. A week and a half ago, Alora Ray Cameron was born. It was an incredible experience. Changed my life.
Nice. That's so cool, dude.
A whole new legacy, a whole new chapter in the story.
It is, yep. And legacy's a word I use a lot with Pop's Flies. I didn't go looking for it, but once I got to know him and the story, legacy was the clear word that came up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was just going to say, tell us a little bit about Pop's Flies and how this came about, because that's your story is an intriguing one, and so give us a little background on Pop's Flies.
Yeah, you bet. So I've been fly fishing since I was a kid, and we can talk more about that. But I'll skip ahead to many years of fly fishing without tying flies. And back in 2018, I was on a retreat. That my brother invited me along on a weekend with him and a few of his buddies that they've been doing this for years. And on, I think it was Saturday night of the getaway, some of the guys were tying flies at the table, and I was watching them, kind of thinking, I just don't see myself as somebody that would get good at that, but I was intrigued by it. So I asked him if I could jump on the vise and tie, and I tied up this ugly red thing, and I didn't catch anything on it the next day, but it was fun tying it. But it just got me thinking, and I went home and told my dad that I tied some flies, and I was thinking about getting some gear together, and it's expensive to start fly tying hobby from scratch. And he said, "Hey, I've got some stuff for you to get you started. It's some stuff of your great grandpa's." And so he gave me this box that had some old material in it and some hooks. It was really a pretty random assortment of things. But with it, he gave me this little black notebook that he said this was a notebook that your great grandpa drew some flies in and made some notes in. It's pretty cool. And I opened it up and started looking through it, and just was pretty fascinated by it right away. And it became a bigger deal than the fly tying itself. And that was in 2019. And I just was like, I got to tell this story. I want to like share these drawings with people. And I started an Instagram account and tried to do stuff, but I just wasn't happy with how it looked. I was just trying to take pictures of pages in the notebook and post them, and just didn't have the kind of look that I felt like justified Pop's drawings. So I kind of put it on the back burner for a couple of years. And then in 2022, I think it was, just about 2 years ago, I decided I was going to learn Photoshop and try and, fit his drawings to the Instagram layout. And it kind of came together, and I put a couple up and was like, this is it. This is what I want to be doing. And then I just got into a rhythm of sharing some of his drawings, every few days. And between March and May or June of 2022, I got a couple thousand followers, and I was just kind of surprised by it. I thought it was cool. I didn't know that many other people would think it was cool. And then that's where kind of it all took off.
That's awesome. So posting those pictures, and they're phenomenal. They're really incredible. You had to do a lot of learning in terms of that stuff. And in order to tell that story, to get his stuff out there, the response, you talk about the response of the fishing community. That's a lot of what we talk about too, that the community piece. What was that like? That many followers, that kind of response.
Yeah, it was cool. I'm in marketing as a career. I've been doing digital marketing for the last 17 years, and so I haven't done as much of the hands-on marketing. I work with experts that are awesome at that, but I know enough about it that I could get in there. And so I was applying what I've seen awesome people that I worked with do, and so I knew kind of in general what to do. And so I learned Photoshop. That took a little while. It was taking me a couple hours to edit the images at first, and then I got it down to where I could cruise through it in 30 or 45 minutes. But when I just started seeing the followership grow, I wasn't coming at it from a marketing angle. I was coming at it from a maybe family and friends will get a kick out of it and think it's cool. And so when I started seeing the numbers go up, I kind of got caught up in the marketing. So like, we try and do this all the time for, people pay us to try and get this happen. And so I got caught up, and it was fun. It was fun to watch the numbers go up, and then it turned into a game. But some of the people that started following along, everybody that at that time, it was small enough, I'd go and look at everybody who followed and was going, holy cow, like these are people who have their own followings and people who have their own kind of established presence on Instagram, and was just like, wow, I can't believe the type of people that are connecting with this. And on one hand, more from the marketing angle is how I looked at that. Like, this is a challenge to get people to follow accounts. On the personal side, I was like, oh, it really is as cool as I think it is. And I've had all kinds of ideas around Pop's Flies, just, products and just all kinds of marketing ideas. And I just was kind of like, this is really cool. Surely other people would like it, but probably not. And then, turns out other people like it too.
So Pop was your great grandfather?
Yeah. Yep. He's on my dad's side. So it's the Cameron name. And he, Pop was born in 1894, and he moved to Colorado when he was 6 years old. So in 1900. And that's where the Colorado journey started. And then we have some pictures of him fly fishing in probably the early 1920s is kind of my best guess at connecting the photo to a timeline. But I have confidence that he was fishing when he was a teenager. So in the 1910s, fishing some of the same rivers as I fish in Colorado today. But he fished throughout his life and kept his journal probably in his 70s, which would have been in the 1960s. And he died 2 years after I was born. So I didn't get a chance to meet him that I can remember. I've got a cool picture of him holding me. I'm on cool. His lap, and But my dad has fond memories of him growing up. They lived five blocks apart, and so he spent a lot of time with Pop. And I feel like I know him with all the stories I've heard from my dad.
And so since you know him, what got him into fly fishing?
What got Pop into fly fishing?
Yeah, what got Pop intrigued into fly fishing?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I kind of have a gap in the story of Pop from 1900 to probably 1915. I have pictures of him as early as 1915. So, and I'm guessing that he was fishing by then, but there's that gap in his in his teenage years. But yeah, I'm not sure. I kind of wonder if his dad also fished. I would kind of assume so. It'd be hard not to.
Right.
But
it sure seems like with your family history, like because your dad fished clearly, from the film and all that stuff, the stories you've been telling, and kind of that legacy of passing down that generation. So it would probably make good sense that Pop probably had some influence from that, right?
Yeah. Yep, for sure. So Pop was a fly fisherman. His son, Papa, which was my grandfather, my dad we call him Papa also. And he's a fly fisherman. He taught me. I fly fish. All my kids have tried it out. One of them has kind of caught the bug and can get out of the water and make things happen. And then I'm eager to see if little Alora Ray will become the 7th generation of fly fishers in Colorado.
That's incredible.
That's so
7th generation of fly fishermen. That's just incredible. I have 3 kids of my own. From one just graduated college and one's a junior in high school, my youngest, and none of them have caught it yet. It's not from a lack of effort, but I'm hoping at some point they'll do the same, because I think that it sounds amazing, that kind of bond, to share something that's so meaningful to me and gives me so much, to share with my kids. So I'm hoping that comes to fruition. Yeah. How'd you get him hooked?
It just kind of happened. I'll tell you a story real quick though that'll give you hope. My older brother, he's a couple years older than me. He didn't get into fly fishing when he was younger. So when we'd fish, he'd mess around for a little bit, and if he didn't catch anything, he would go off and get lost and cause trouble someplace else. But he would always participate by throwing a big old rock in the hole that I was fishing in and just completely blow up the whole thing. But it was, probably, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago that he started getting into it. And now it's one of my favorite things to do with him. We're off fishing as often as we can. And so, that was, he was probably in his 40s before he really got into it. So plenty of time.
There's good. Okay, good. There's hope.
Yeah. But with my son, Jacob, it was just, it's just in him. We actually went earlier this year, and he hadn't been for a while. And I was, looking forward to spending the day with him. And, I'm not an awesome fly fisherman, so I always go out with low hopes. And, there's even more pressure when you've got somebody there hoping that you'll help them catch fish. But we got out there and he just picked it up. I mean, he's got a great cast and he's a natural, and, he spotted some fish and was committed to getting some of them and ended up doing it. It was awesome. It's awesome to watch him. It's in him though. It's just, it's in him.
What did the fly fishing community mean to Pop?
For him personally?
Yeah.
It's this is one of the many cool things about the story is a lot of the flies in his journal. So there's 2 places that he drew flies. One was in this little black notebook, and there's 90 drawings of different patterns in there, with the recipe written alongside of it. And then he made a stack of index card that had, I think it's another 79. So the official count of flies is 90 and 78, 169. So right around 170 flies. And a lot of them are, well-known patterns. There's, the Royal Coachman, and there's a ton of stuff that you'd recognize, but there's probably 3 or 4 that are originals that I've never seen anywhere else. There's one that he attributed to a friend of his, and I actually have found it, and it has a history that kind of generally goes back to southern Colorado in the 1970s or something. And the drawing in his journal goes back to prior to the earliest record I could find of it. But anyway, there's 2 or 3 flies that he attributes to people that I have found records of. One of them is a man named Gary Berry, and the Central Colorado Springs School District is School District 11, and it was, it's one of the 2 oldest school districts in the city. And Pop went to school in District 11, and then he was actually a teacher there for a while. He was an electrician, but which kind of fits with the story. Gary Berry was an athletic director in District 11 at the time that Pop was teaching, and then the stadium, the single stadium that's used for all the sports in District 11 is called Gary Berry Stadium. So for local people, local historians, they would see that and go, wow, that's like a famous connection. And then another fly is attributed to a guy named Rudy Savio, Savio, S-A-V-I-O. I would love to meet his family. I'm guessing that some of them are still here, around. But he had, I found records of his family having a cabin up on Clear Creek, up near Leadville, not the Clear Creek that goes into the Front Range, but his family had a cabin up there. And so there's 2 guys that I have record of that were peers and friends of his that he actually, I know he tied flies and fished with in this book. So clearly it was bigger than, him going out on a Saturday and catching fish alone. It was something that involved friendship and family too, of course.
Sure.
Yeah, that's super cool.
It seems like definitely there's some influence of mentorship in terms of fly tying and even probably, I'm sure, fishing going along with that.
Yeah.
Which is, that's something that I think is incredibly important as more and more people are out and looking for adventures and looking for things to do, is that idea of mentorship, that idea of community and finding those kinds of places to go. It's a big reason why Ed and I are doing what we're doing. Talk a little bit about, Pop has this big influence on you, and you kind of stumbled into this whole thing with your dad passing on the stuff from Pop to you.
Yeah.
What was your relationship like with your dad in terms of fishing and that whole influence? Because I know that was a big deal for you as well. You've talked a little bit about that in the film. And so give us a little bit of taste of your dad's influence on you and passing that along.
Yeah. I love my dad. He's an incredible man. And we've had a great relationship my whole life. And so there's not a lot of drama there other than just he's an incredible dad and has loved me and my siblings well, and was just really intentional about connecting with us. He worked hard during the week, and had a really successful career and impacted a lot of people. But evenings and weekends, he was dad, and his time was ours. And so he had a 1972 Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40 for Land Cruiser enthusiasts. They know exactly what that is.
Nice.
And he bought it brand new, and we took that thing all over the state of Colorado, and we got into some pretty gnarly places, and it was all stock. And so it was, we'd get into places where it would have been really nice to have some big knobbly tires on there. But we went some cool places and always had our fishing gear. And so it was something my dad loved to do and loves to do, and an easy way to, connect with us and have it be part of our adventure. So, I'm an outdoorsman. I consider myself an outdoorsman, and it was an influence from my dad, and that clearly came from Papa and Pop before him.
Right.
What does the fly fishing community mean to you?
Yeah. So I'm kind of I'm more introvert. Like I can do extrovert, and I think the older I've gotten, the more I've been able to be in groups and really be, fed by group experiences, and more so when it's things like fishing. But I love getting out on the water alone. And there's times where I'm off alone, and it might get to the point of thinking, oh, I wish so and so was here with me. That usually happens too. But if I'm not alone, it's usually just with one other person. A lot of times it's my brother. And so the fly fishing community for me, in terms of direct connection, has really been in one-on-ones with who's available that day and who do I really want to spend some time with. So I've got a few good friends. My friend Aaron, Adam. There's several guys that I just, anytime I can, want to get out on the water with them, and so there's that side of the community. But this whole Pops Flies taking off thing has opened my eyes to a whole nother side of community, and I've connected with folks around the world. There's a guy in Italy that ties Pops Flies and has shared them, and we've connected. And there's someone in South America who tied one or two of them, and I can't remember who it was. But Canadian fly tire, Pops Fly Tire, and several guys around the country, and a couple of women who have tied some flies. And so there's just the act of people tying those flies and saying, "Hey, this came from Pop's notebook," and they take a picture of it and post it, and then we're messaging behind the scenes. And there's one guy that really I've connected with more than anyone, Freddie. Freddie's Flies with a Z at the end. We've really connected, and actually this frame right here is a copy of the top flight frame. This is unfair for the people who are listening to the podcast that they can't see this, but on the wall behind me is a wooden picture frame that Pop made, and he mounted 10 flies that he tied in there. And then my dad and I replicated. We didn't take it apart, but we looked at the frame that Pop made and made a copy of it. And that frame is full of flies that Freddie tied. So he tied them at his home in New York, and then sends them to me in batches of 6 or 8. And so I think he's tied 30 or more, and he's on a mission to tie every one of them, I think. So, but cool. I mean, cool. Yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten to meet him in person, but there's another guy, Ryan, that lives up in Washington State, and he and I got a chance to meet each other in Portland last year when I was out there, and he's tied a whole bunch of the flies and shared them online too. So it's a cool community. Like there's a lot of cool stuff that happens within the fly fishing community that I had no idea about, and I have just a deep respect for more people and organizations that have come out of it, and the Project Healing Waters, and I mean, that's the one that comes to mind, but there's so many great organizations that have capitalized on that community, and they're doing great stuff.
Right. Just speaking of great stuff, one of the things that is on your website, the recreation of the picture on the Arkansas River. I think it was Arkansas down below Pueblo, right? Yeah. Down.
Yep.
What struck me about that was your son and you set out on this quest to do this. And I think the part that really affected me or that made me go, wow, was after you took the picture, you described in that piece about, just putting your head on your son's shoulder and sharing, sharing some tears over that whole thing. Talk a little bit about that moment, because that was something that really stood out to me. I'm, as a dad, you become a dad, and Ed's got a 2-year-old, and so he's kind of aware of this. He's not there yet, but I watched Field of Dreams when I was younger, right? And at the end, he's like, "Dad, want to have a catch?" And when I became a dad, that scene changed everything. And I watched that scene and started crying, and I'm like, why am I sitting on the couch tearing up over this moment? So I've had moments like that with my son. Talk a little bit about that, because that was really powerful.
Yeah. I'm glad you read that. Thanks for taking the time to read it. So there's a lot that leads up to that point that I'll make quick, but the picture you're talking about is a black and white photo of my grandpa. Mm-hmm. From the 1940s, we guess, and there's a bridge in the background, and a bunch of trees alongside the river. And when I got that picture, I got it back in 2019 as well, when I got his journal and all that kind of stuff. And I looked at it, I was like, I want to find this, and talked to my dad about it. He thought he had a place in mind that he thought it was up near Buena Vista. And I spent a lot of time on Google Maps, just, going up and down the river, looking for something that had there were a couple things in the picture that are, significant enough to look for. And just I spent 3 years trying to find that location.
Wow.
But it was all on Google Maps, most of it. And I found some old aerial photographs of the area around Pueblo Reservoir before it was filled in. So there's years of looking for it, which also meant years of having this discussion with my dad and him talking about where he thought the picture was, and just part of the conversation of hearing my dad talk about his relationship with Pop. And prior to my son and I going down there to recreate the photo, after I thought that I found the location, I took my dad down there to confirm it. I wanted to go with him to see. And as we walked up to it, the confidence kept getting greater and greater, and got to the point where it's like, this is it. Like, this is where Pop was standing. And there was some disappointment on my dad's part. He had this really clear picture of where it was, up near Buena Vista. And so I feel a little bad that I kind of broke this memory for him, but it was really special being there. And that's life, right? We have these ideas of what life's going to be, and we stumble upon something, or something happens and we learn that it's not what we thought. So we're familiar with that as a family in all the generations. And so I know my dad embraces that. And we look at it as, it's a picture of life, that discovery of where it really was versus where we thought it was. And so that was a really touching experience with him. So that's what led up to, this story, and going, wouldn't it be cool if I could recreate this? And so I have had a couple seasons where I smoked a pipe while I was fishing. And by that, I mean, I smoked once and was more difficult to do, and it was a distraction from fly fishing. So I didn't do it for a couple years. Then I did it again and thought it was just as difficult, and I gave up on it. But I kept this pipe around. So I took it with me, and I had it in my vest. And so, we got in the place, we got everything lined up, and I was literally ready to go find a stick or something to put, to put on my line and drag it in the water so that I could, mimic this picture of Pop, because he's got a fish on in the image. And so, but my son came with his camera, and he's getting in position, and he's just kind of doing his thing as passionately as I was doing with getting the fly right, and, looking for the fish. And they started rising, and just everything was coming together. And it was like the world was getting smaller and smaller down to this moment. And I feel like I'm about to copy kind of the tone of "A River Runs Through It." There's a line that's coming. The last words of the "River Runs Through It" are coming together, but everything blends into one. I don't remember, but it was like this moment where it's the only thing that existed. And I was, I grabbed the pipe out of my vest and, put it in my mouth, and my son was snapping photos, and I couldn't believe it. And so when, we got the fish back in the water and everything back together and just stopped, and now we were back in the real world, standing there with my son going, my great grandpa 80 years ago, 60 years ago, whatever it was in the same spot and caught a fish here. And I don't know who was behind the camera. It'd be cool to know who that was. It's probably his wife.
Right.
But I'm in this moment decades later from a previous moment, and I'm with my son, and he's doing what he's good at, and I'm doing what I'm passionate at. And he was the shoulder to cry on for me, of just the power of this moment, of the, multi-generational experience. And it was incredible. And also a picture of our family. We've experienced the unmet expectations of life, but also the overwhelming experiences of redemption and celebration and excitement. And that was one that kind of captured all of it. So
yeah, it's an incredible story. I thought, the pictures, it's incredible. Yeah, it's amazing. And I guess a lot of things had to come in the line.
It was crazy. And yeah, I haven't read that for a while, but that's what I wrote about. I think I mentioned some of
Yeah.
the stuff that
Yeah.
had to come together.
Right.
It was amazing.
Yeah. No, it was
It's a real fish. It wasn't a stick. I didn't have to fake it.
no, when you were right, when I was reading that about the stick, I was just laughing. I was chuckling. I'm like, hey, you do what you got to do, right? And then
Yeah.
you ended up hooking a fish. That was great.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and and I know in the movie there's some things about wellness. I think you just kind of hinted at that idea of
Yeah.
generationally the family. Your story's incredible in terms of like the generations of that. And I think that's one of the fascinating parts of it. And so I don't have a ton of, past my grandfather. I don't have a ton of that understanding of the multi generations. So I think it's really fascinating and cool. But part of that was wellness, like mental wellness,
Yeah.
and you guys speak a little bit about anxiety, and maybe that being a generational kind of thing too, and pattern and
Yeah.
things that and I know that happens. Talk a little bit about that idea, in that effect on your family.
Yeah. Yeah. This whole thing, like, as we get into this part of it, it went from tying flies and getting a journal of my great grandpa's to searching for a spot and recreating a photo. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And when this film project came together, which is a whole story in itself, but it was not planned. It was a result of a great group of guys finding Pop's flies on Instagram, and they kind of initiated this. But um, I've dealt with anxiety and depression since my childhood, but more pronounced since my mid 20s, and it's something I've lived with and learned to thrive with. Honestly, it's it's part of who I am, and I'm proud of it and grateful for it. But it's not easy. And my dad, I didn't notice him having that experience until his retirement, and so it's really been in the last 10 years probably that he and I have really connected on it. But we've ended up doing a lot of work on dealing with anxiety together, and that just came up in some of the filming early on in the couple of days that we were doing the filming, and that ended up being what the whole film was about. So I got to bring together this fly fishing passion and this mental health advocacy into a film, which is just so incredible. But what we've learned from looking at my anxiety and my dad's anxieties, we can see patterns back to my grandpa and then Pop, and just see some of the same things that back then it wasn't. There was no diagnosis of it, but the behavior and the outward expression of some of the things we look at it and go, "Yep, they just didn't know what to call it." And so my dad and I actually, my family, knowing the impact that anxiety's had on the two of us and other family members, we look at that and go, man, what was it like for Pop and Papa to be dealing with that, but have no label for it, have no coping skills. But what they did is they fished and they tied flies and they drew, and that's all really good, healthy stuff. You don't have to have a diagnosis to know how to take care of yourself and do things that help your mental wellness. And so I mean, it's admirable for the generations before us who obviously dealt with mental health stuff too. It just wasn't talked about. There weren't labels for it. In some ways, that's probably better.
Great.
But they dealt with it, and they dealt with it the same way we do now. We just have words for it. But I'm sure that fishing and fly tying and drawing flies in these journals was very much a part of Pop's mental wellness. And now, because of this film, my dad and I have connected more on it, and we have opportunities to talk to more people about it. And it's
That's
opened
great.
some great doors, some great conversations over the last couple of years.
That's fantastic.
So what are the conversations like? What do you help people with?
I think one of the biggest things is giving people an opportunity to say it out loud. And so, and this is really kind of the crux of the film. It's about, do I really want this story out there? Because my dad starts talking about it, and then he realizes kind of, oh no, this is on film. And we kind of gave these guys permission to do whatever they want. And so there's this conversation about, hey, I don't know if I want this in the film. And then that conversation turns into a really powerful moment where it's like, okay, by talking about it, other people can be influenced in a good way by this. And so the few times I've been at a showing of the film, one of them was at the big fly fishing film tour event here in Colorado Springs this year. And I got a chance to speak briefly before and after the film. And I probably had 20, all of them guys, 20 guys come up to me and say something along the lines of, hey, I've experienced that also, or my dad or my son. And some of them, I get the sense that maybe I was the only person outside of their family that they've said it to. Some people say that, like, hey, I've never told anybody this, but I experience it, or my son experiences that, or whatever. And we've got to help each other out. And one of the ways we can do that is by talking about it and just making it so it's not such a big deal. It's not. It's no different than, well, it is different. It's just a different version of the flu or a broken leg or needing surgery or whatever else. Mental health is health, and we should be able to talk about it just like we do anything else, but we don't. And it impacts us. And so my dad and I got to talk about it in the film. We've shown the film. Other people have been able to talk about it. And I hope it inspires other people to talk about it. We just need to normalize it. It's really not that big of a deal. So many people deal with it, and if we all know that, then we can take care of each other better.
Right. Yeah, that's part of what, GFW and some of the stuff that we've discovered over, our fishing trip that we've done for 28 years with our group of guys is it's created that for us, that place where, we can talk about things, it's become a measuring stick for us in terms of, how my life is going comparatively to these guys that I hold sacred to me. And that's a lot of what we're trying to help do too, is create those kinds of spaces for and help, remove some of that friction of the stereotypes that go along with kind of like, being a guy and sucking it up and not talking about these things, or not being able to just go hang out and be everyday guys. Right.
Yeah.
And that's seemingly, that's a big part of what we want to do, is that idea of like just everyday men trying to navigate and get some camaraderie and some friendship to be able to handle some of these things that come our way, and talk about them and have a place to get support and, a cheering section and to be able to manage those things.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal of what we're trying to do. It sounds absolutely. It seems like there's, a lot of times you have to have an infliction of some kind. Right. But there's just everyday dudes that maybe struggle a little bit with this, and just need a place to be able to go to understand it and get somebody rooting for them,
Yeah, for sure. Mental health is not it's a spectrum. And,
right.
just we've created these labels, which I think there's, in some areas, there's a push to kind of get away from some of the labels. And I think in some ways that would be helpful, but there's the spectrum that most of us have experienced some element of depression or anxiety, but just not in a way that may clinically take you out for 2 weeks or 6 months or a year or whatever. But it's a common thing. It's not like oh, you've been diagnosed with depression, I don't know what that's like. It's more like, okay, I haven't been diagnosed with that, but I know what it's like to, not be doing well. And what I love about what you guys are doing with GFW is just that when we have an event, especially a repeatable event that we can go back to, you can start measuring your wellness or just get a perspective on life based on those past times. So when you talk about, you've been doing this for 27 years, I'm sure you can look back and go, hey, remember that one year that this happened, or that this was going on in my life? And, over the course of those 27 years, you've learned to step out of the real world and maybe talk about things that you wouldn't talk about back home. And then all of a sudden you've established this pattern, this ritual maybe of, hey, when we get away, we talk about it. And sometimes maybe you're thinking back on, hey, 5 years ago, this weekend, we were going through this. Do you remember that? And hey, look at how great we're doing. And I think there's something really powerful about those rituals that we keep. And anything that we can do with fly fishing and incorporate it into a rhythm, I think can be really powerful, especially if we establish it as a place where we can be a little more vulnerable and take some risks and open up about some stuff.
Absolutely, 100%, and you're dead on with that. Over the course of time, we do that often. And it's funny, we talk about it quite a bit too. There's trips where I go in and I definitely I need something from the fellas, then there's times where I don't need anything, but I'm going to give this weekend to my compadres who do need something, So it's really cool to be able to develop that, and of course that takes time. That didn't happen the first few times we went, but it over the course of time that's definitely become that. So that's what we're hoping to do, is help people understand it and discover the power behind that. Something like this, and so it's cool. It's great feeling. So.
Yeah.
I think it's also very important, like you say, to talk about actually speaking up about it. I mean, I know that I think a lot of it can come into this rumination, circling in your head over and over and over again on something. And in a lot of cases, just getting it out to somebody close to you is such a huge step in the whole process of starting that healing. Just have somebody else, see you as you are and be aware of your presence and know that you're going through this, and just having somebody else that knows that. It might sound silly and small and tiny, but I truly, I also deal with anxiety at times, and that putting that out to somebody close to you is such an important part in the process.
Yeah. Being out on the water seems like a safer place to do that for some reason. And by being on the water, I mean in the drive up and at the back of the truck when you're you're rigging up, or just that whole experience.
Yeah, the timeout sections on the river when you're just sitting down and you're giving it a break and you're letting it changing flies, doing whatever, but you got a companion sitting next to you, and the conversations are incredible. Those are some of my favorite moments. It's funny you mentioned the drive. That's like one of our best parts.
That's our favorite.
When we got to drive 3.5 hours, we're like, nah, that's no big deal. Let's go. 4 hours, great. Let's do it, because the time in the car is like some of the fun, the most fun and great moments we have together.
Yeah.
So
oh, sorry, I cut you off, Reid.
No, that whole process is part of the whole experience of it all, and it's great.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so much of our experiences away from fishing is face-to-face stuff. So we, go get a cup of coffee together, or we have a meal together, and we're sitting across from each other, looking at each other in the eye, and some great conversations. A lot of great conversations happen that way. But there's a different type of conversation when you get in the car and you're looking the same direction, you're moving forward direction. And so eye contact is important in its ways, but not having eye contact. And I think just that motion of being in a car, moving forward, headed for a destination together, I think there's some symbolism in it that allows us to be alongside of each other, both physically, but symbolically, and go, hey, what is it we're going to, and what is it we're leaving behind? And I mean, that's a pretty clear connection right there. What are we driving away from?
Right.
And then what are we driving to, and what's the contrast there? And what do we get to experience? And part of what we get to experience is that journey together, side by side, talking about both of those things, what's behind and what's ahead.
Agreed.
That's an incredibly, that's a really good take on it. And, being the ex-English teacher, the symbolism piece to that, I love that.
Yes.
Good deal there.
There's also the safe space of, having a controlled, confined space where, no one else can really hear you in a way. And that is your private space, your time. And, anybody, maybe a moose could listen to you, but otherwise it's just you guys.
Yep. Yeah. Congrats on your retirement, by the way, Reid.
Thank you.
What are you a month out of teaching?
Pretty close to a few weeks. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's good. Yeah, people ask me a lot about it, and I'm just like, right now it just seems normal because I typically have summers off. I think it'll really hit me when it comes time, in August when
Yeah.
all my buddies go back to work and I can send them texts from the river with fish, and
Yeah.
then I think it'll probably hit me a little bit more like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not going back to work. Yeah. So, but thank you. I appreciate that. It's been really cool. So far, so good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome.
Well, we'd love to get on the water with you one day. If we were to come down to your neck of the woods, what kind of water would we get on? Where would you take us?
Yeah. So it's fun that, as you ask that, my answer is probably not much different than Pop's answer would have been 100 years ago. Um, and so we've got the Arkansas River to the south, where it comes out of the canyon, from a long stretch of, from Leadville, Colorado, down through Buena Vista and Salida, and then down to Canyon City, and then from Canyon City to Pueblo, it kind of flattens out. And I think after Pueblo is probably one of the last good trout fishing areas. But the Arkansas down at Pueblo is an hour from my house, the quickest and easiest to get to. And it's fun in its own ways, but I like to get up in the mountains where I feel like I'm more away. In Pueblo, I'm getting passed by bikers and motor scooters on the trail and all that kind of stuff. Construction's going on. But the Arkansas up in Salida and Breckenridge and Leadville, just that whole Arkansas Valley is, I consider that my home waters more than Pueblo. And then the South Platte, the Dream Stream and 11 Mile and Cheeseman, all the, the big places. But Tomahawk, the state wildlife area up near Hartselle, is a little quieter place, not as big a water that's fun to get out to. But I think if I could just plot myself down someplace in the middle where I could get to stuff easily, it would be, I wouldn't mind being in Hartselle, and it's half an hour to Buena Vista and 15 minutes from the Dream Stream and half an hour from 11 Mile. And so it's a great kind of a base camp. Yeah. My brother and I, that's actually where the fishing weekend is that I've been on for a few years, where I started tying flies. And then my brother and I did a little Airbnb that was basically a, what do they call those? Tough shed. It was basically a tough shed with a couple beds in it, but it was awesome. We had to go into the guy's house to use the bathroom and stuff. There was no kitchen, but I mean, just the South Platte and the Arkansas around here just have, world-renowned fishing, and it's where Pop grew up. One of the things I did some research on is I realized that Pop was fishing the South Platte when Antero, I think it was Antero that was one of the first reservoirs that was built. Mm-hmm. So he was fishing before 11 Mile and Spinney, and he fished places where that's buried now that we can't go fishing. Right. And so
that's wild.
Every time I go fishing, I have the thought, Pop probably fished here. And right. There's a good chance in his, call it 1910 to his 60 years of fishing, I'm sure he fished these spots that I'm going to.
Right. Have you done much up in Antero, up in the reservoir up there?
Yeah, I haven't done much lake fishing. I'm just so into the quietness of the streams, and most of my life have been a small stream fisherman in Cottonwood Creek and Clear Creek up near, feeders into the Arkansas. Those are where I've had, I have so many memories of quiet moments and reflecting on life and just really feeling like you're out lost. And if I'm going to be on still water, I'd rather have it be up high, in an alpine lake with some cutthroats and that kind of stuff. And I know the big lakes and stuff is great fishing, but if I have the choice, I'm going to be out on a river or creek.
Right. So yeah, similar to me, I'd rather bushwhack a small creek and catch brookies and beautiful cutties all day long.
Yeah.
So, good deal.
Yep. I got a tenkara last fall, I've had
We've
one
been
for a
talking
few
about
years.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had one for a few years, and it's huge. It's so long that it's hard for the smaller water. So I got a smaller tenkara last fall, and haven't actually used it much, but I'm so psyched to get out on the smaller water with it, and a little different experience.
So how big is the one you just got, the smaller one?
The one I have is a telescoping one, so it's got
Uh-huh.
I think it goes from like maybe between 10 and 13.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. I do backpacking, and so last summer I was up in the Wind Rivers in Wyoming, and I've backpacked the Colorado Trail, and we're working on the Continental Divide Trail through Colorado.
Oh,
And
wow.
every time I'm out on the trail, I wish I had a fly rod, but my fly rod's a two-piece, and it's a little rough. I've tried carrying it around in a
Oof.
backpack and have embarrassed myself a few times getting caught up in trees and falling and that kind of stuff. But now I have a rod that I can take with me and get some of those high country cutthroats and stuff.
Right on.
How long do you go out for on those hikes?
I have an annual tradition with a good friend of mine, Jeff, and some summers we'll bring our kids, one of our kids, along with us, but the longest we've been out I think is 8 days,
Wow.
and kind of built up to that over several years. But there's nothing like getting out backpacking for 5 nights or more, because the 1 and 2 night trips are fun, but you get in and you get out and it feels like it's over. But those long trips are just a completely different experience, and going 100 miles and just seeing places that no one else gets to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and now it's going to be better with the tankar in my pack.
Heck yeah, we'll
That's
be.
right. That's right. Yeah, Ed and I have been talking about getting 10 caras and doing a trip with those, and learning how to do that.
Yeah, nice.
I think this has been awesome. I think with this coming out, it'll come out probably right after Father's Day.
Oh, sweet.
So it'll be a nice lineup with your message and everything. What's kind of one ode to Father's Day that you might drop about Pops?
Oh man, nothing specifics come to mind. I just Father's Day is a different experience when you've got another generation or two or three of stories. I mean, it literally has changed how I've thought about Father's Day, just because there's more story to it. But now having a granddaughter, this Father's Day will be another different, exciting experience.
That's awesome.
Generational Father's Day. Got to be something special.
Yeah. Yep.
You'll have to get her a telescoping Tenkara rod.
Yeah. Yeah. I posted on Instagram last week a picture of me reading her a book, and it's a book. Cheyenne Orvis is somebody I follow on Instagram. She has a big following, but she's a fly fisher and just has some great shots and stories and pictures of her, and I think her daughter out fishing when she wrote a children's book. And as soon as I saw it, I knew at the time that we were having a granddaughter, and I was like, I'm getting the book and I can't wait to read it. So I ordered it as soon as it was out. And so I have a picture up on Instagram. My last post was a picture of me with Alora Ray, and I just got done reading her first book, and it was the fly fishing book.
Doesn't get better than that. Attaboy.
Nope.
That's great.
Nope. Yeah, a lot of tears this last week celebrating a new life, and just an awesome life of my daughter and her husband and a new baby.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yep, it'll be a sweet Father's Day.
Good.
Well, let's wrap up with some lighthearted rapid fire questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
This might be an easy one, and one
I think we got this one covered.
Yeah. Yep.
One thing you're currently celebrating in life, your granddaughter, I'm sure, right?
Yep. My granddaughter, and even the story of our daughter and just the journey she's been on to get to this point is one of just huge redemption, and just a lot of life, a lot of story goes into this big event. So definitely worth celebrating.
That's fantastic.
Awesome. Congrats.
Yep.
What's one piece of content, could be a book, video, TV series, that you would recommend to the community?
Yeah. So you sent this ahead of time, and I'm deep in reading about career transition stuff right now. So if I had to keep it to fly fishing, I would say the Orbis podcast is kind of my go-to. Always learning something from that, and just entertaining and fun. But there's a book kind of separate from fly fishing, but fits with men, community, that kind of stuff. Is a book called From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks, and it's about kind of our first half of our career versus our second half of our career, and just the differences in people, in how we are at those different ages, young and old, and that has been a big book for me. So that's a bonus, non-fly fishing little bonus for the audience if you're looking for.
That sounds like something that would be good for me.
Yeah, read
transition.
Read.
Honestly.
It's a perfect book for you.
Great.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Ray, give us one of your favorite fishing memories.
We talked about one with my son, reenacting that picture, but another is my family used to have a cabin up in Breckenridge, and in the summertime, after the snow had melted away, there's some great beaver ponds up there, and so we'd be up at the cabin several times during the summer, and anybody that was at the cabin would go over to the beaver ponds, and we'd fish and spinner fish and fly fish. And I've got a picture of my dad and my 3 kids and me and my wife and some nephews. I just like people all over the place around these beaver ponds, and it can be so easy to catch fish in those sometimes. And so there's a picture that I have that captures it, but we had a lot of great experiences at the beaver ponds up near Breckenridge.
That's awesome.
Teaching kids to fish, and
Right. Yep. Nothing beats that when they catch, when they're little like that. And boy, oh boy, the face lights up and the eyes get big. Those are good. That's good.
What is one piece of advice you wish you'd given to your 20-year-old self?
Yeah, this is a good one, and I'm glad you guys gave me a heads up on getting to think about these ones, because I could come to a more final conclusion instead of winging it. But mine would be, don't be surprised by adversity, and then hold on to the hope that comes out of that. I'll leave it at that, because there could be a whole bunch of stories behind that.
Right. No,
awesome.
That's a great one. And I like the way that you phrase that in terms of don't be surprised by adversity, because it's coming. Right.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. And I love that. That's really good.
Yeah.
Give us your definition of community.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Community is such an important thing just in the day-to-day community, the people around you, and just the functioning of life. But as I thought about this, for me, what came to mind was the really people who are there for you all the time, no matter what, when that adversity comes. And I think that's just kind of maybe the deepest level of community for me. And we've been through our own trials where community gets smaller and smaller, mostly because sometimes the amount of community that's around you may be too much. But over the years, we've seen our really community dialed down to some close friends and family that have been there through that adversity. So community is big, but to me, when I think about it, it's that small group of people that have been there through every single one of them, or even if they haven't been through every one, they've been through a series of those more intense times, and just been a presence and wisdom and an ear and somebody to share tears with.
Nice. Good.
So we've been doing a new tradition with guests going forward. The previous guest gave us a question for you, not knowing exactly who was going to be the next person, but we have a question from Kevin at Castings, Feathers and Fur. And his question to you is, how do we encourage the next generation to embrace the love of the outdoors?
Ooh. Thanks, Kevin. I love it. I think we have to do it and bring them along with us. I think that's the easiest thing. Um, and that's a good thing to do. I think this younger generation needs us to do that. And just, yeah, get them in the car, let them be that someone alongside with us going out to do the adventure together. And then also we want to make sure that it's as good for them as it's been for us. And so I think anything we can do to teach and show respect and how to care for these waters that we fish and the beautiful mountains that Reid, you and I live near, and Ed, you get to come out and visit. But
Yep.
yeah, take them along and show them how to respect it. Good question. Thanks, Kevin.
Nice. Yeah.
It's awesome. And so to follow up with that, what's your question for the next guest?
Yeah. Okay. Next guest. Can't wait to hear it. More motivation to listen to the next one.
That's right.
What motivated you to say yes to being on the podcast?
Okay.
Nice. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. That's fun. Great tradition. Great thing to have as a weekly.
Well, this has been awesome. And we really appreciate the story. We love seeing the flies, the artwork that comes along with it, all of the knowledge and tradition and history, and can't wait to see more of it. Where can people find you? How can they support your mission with Pops, the mental health side of it, all of that?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing to do is just go to Pops Flies on Instagram, Pops Flies, all one word. And then we also have a website, popsflies.com. Those are the two places. The film is on the fly fishing film tour right now. It's an alternate film, and so not everybody gets to see it, but I think we'll probably start using it more in some different ways. And I'd love to just have a bigger audience. So I'm not sure when we're going to release it, just put it out on the web to have anybody be able to see it. But I'd love to show it if there's folks that want to show it in a group setting. I'd love to talk with them about that. And if anybody has an opportunity for me to come and speak about mental health by itself, mental health and fly fishing combined, I'm always glad to have those conversations and be a voice for advocacy and decreasing stigma. So that's where you can find me and how you can help. Give me a platform to share more stories.
Right
Awesome.
on. Ray, it's great. Love what you're doing. Can't wait to see the film. And just keep on keeping on, dude. It's awesome. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, Reid and Ed. It was really fun.
Talk soon. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Oh, man, what a great conversation.
Wasn't that fantastic? I swear that story is so cool. This thing dates back to like the early 1900s, man. Like how often? Yeah, like before that, like the late 1800s, early 1900s. Like how often do you get to trace back a family tree and learn like that piece of it, that legacy part, which I've been that's been kind of a big theme for me in terms of retiring from teaching and whatever, and legacy's been kind of an important thing for me. And man, Ray just lucky to be able to go back and kind of track that stuff and find out about his great grandfather and all those pieces. What a fascinating way to do it, right through fishing. It's awesome.
Yeah, to be able to have a hobby that you like, that connects generations of family members together. That's without being taught by them. It's kind of just like in the DNA. That's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, that's what, I don't know about every, but certainly me, I think about it in terms of how great would that be if I could pass that on, to my kids and they pass it on to their kids. And someday, one of my great grandkids is like looking through all my old crappy fly gear and being inspired by it. I mean, that's the whole thing is that spark of inspiration that happens to create Pops Flies. Awesome. That's just really cool.
Yeah. Your great grandkid is going to find this recording in 70 years, and they're going to look at this and be like, wow, they're going to, pour over every episode, and they're going to just learn so much about you.
Right? What an idiot I am. No.
No.
One of the other cool things that I loved about that conversation was that recreation of the picture. And if you read that part on Popsfly's on their website, that he wrote about that, and just the experience he had with his own son through that whole process, and a way of sharing a moment together to recreate that picture of his great-great-grandfather catching a fish at the same spot in the same river 100 years later, whatever, 80 years later. That's crazy. And man, what a cool moment for that to come to fruition.
That was a super awesome story, and just to have had to work on it over the years for multiple years to find the location, then like set it up, and then to do it with an actual fish, like,
Right.
that's sweet.
Right.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, not having to stage it with a stick. That was beautiful. That was cool.
I also think it's awesome, his story with dealing with anxiety, just an everyday guy dealing with it, and making it aware that it's important for guys to speak up about it and talk about it. And I think that's a critical thing that we agree with here at GFW, and love that our paths connected about that that awareness that people need to have about mental health, and just being open about it, and being confident to talk to other people about it, and all of that. So huge kudos to him for speaking up and shining the light on that problem that we have in this country and the world. So
100%. Absolutely agree 100%. And that's the thing. That's what we want to do, is just give guys a place to be, if they need it. You know what I mean? Somebody to, just support, somebody to cheer you on through that stuff. And I agree that awareness is huge. Being comfortable and being able to talk about stuff hopefully can help save people from reaching dark places. So yeah, totally cool. Really awesome.
And so we wanted to do something to help, support Ray's mission of mental health awareness. And so we've agreed to do a giveaway of the Popsfly journal. One Popsfly journal will be given away to kind of one of our followers. And we'll be kind of releasing that on our Instagram, and all the rules of the competition will be on there. And we'll pick at random one lucky follower to get their hands on a copy of the beautiful journal. So looking forward to working together on that, and being in lockstep on mental health awareness.
Absolutely. The Fly Journal is really cool. It is a piece of artwork, and it's so cool. So yeah, I'm glad we're able to do that and give one of those things away. That'll be cool.
Heck yeah.
All right, brother.
It's another great conversation in the books.
Absolutely. Until next time, bro.
We'll talk soon. Love you, man.
Love you too, brother.
See ya.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to visit our website, guysfishingweekend.com, to check out the GFW merch, sign up for our newsletter, and learn how to get involved with the community. We appreciate you spending even a little bit of your week with us, and are glad to have you along on the journey. Stay legendary and happy fishing.